I came back from the funeral with my heart pounding, eager to tell my son and daughter-in-law that my father had left me 3 ranches and a house on the coast. But when I arrived, I heard their voices coming from behind the door. I froze, hidden in the hallway. What I heard next chilled my blood. But let me tell you from the beginning how a man who had just buried his father uncovered a conspiracy that would change everything, and how revenge, when served cold and calculated, can be devastatingly perfect. My name is Elias Thornwell. I'm 59 years old, and I own 4 thriving drugstores in Atlanta, Georgia. Businesses I built from the ground up since I was 22. Today, they generate approximately $1.55 million annually. It's a comfortable, respectable life built on sacrifice. My father, Elias Thornwell, passed away 4 days ago at the age of 86. He was a rancher all his life, a man as hard as stone, with 3 massive cattle properties in rural central Texas that he managed personally until his final days, and a spectacular oceanfront house on the Outer Banks of North Carolina that he bought 30 years ago before anyone believed in that area. We were never close. He was from another era where affection was shown through work, not words. But he taught me values and discipline, and he left me a legacy that tripled my own net worth. My wife, Eleanor, passed away 10 years ago. Cancer consumed her in 8 months, leaving me with our only son, Marcus, who is now 33 and has been married to Vanessa for 5 years. Marcus studied law with my money at a prestigious law school. Afterward, he opened a law firm that never prospered as he hoped, always with excuses about the difficult economy, unfair competition, and clients who wouldn't pay. 2 years ago, when his debts grew too large, he asked me for help. "Dad, it's just $20,000 to pay off credit cards, just to breathe." I gave him the money, without a formal loan, without documents, because he was my son, and fathers help their children. Or so I thought. But the debts continued. There was always something else: office rent, payroll, operating expenses. And each time Marcus came with his hand out, I gave, because what else could I do? Let my son fail? Vanessa worked in human resources, earning a good salary, but she had a lifestyle that exceeded her income: expensive clothes, exclusive restaurants, and trips she documented obsessively on social media, creating an image of success that didn't match reality. Over these 5 years, I noticed changes. Marcus visited less, called less, always with excuses about work, commitments, or the complicated life of a married adult. And when they did visit, Vanessa had a way of looking at my house and my things as if she were appraising them, calculating. "Mr. Thornwell, this house is huge for one person, don't you think? It's my home, where I lived with Eleanor, where I raised Marcus." Sure. I'm just saying that maintaining a property like this must be costly. Maybe something smaller would be more practical." Casual comments, but with a subtle underlying intention, as if she were planting seeds, preparing the ground for something. My father's funeral was 3 days ago. It was a big event. Elijah was respected in the region. Hundreds came, and everyone assumed that I, as the only surviving child, would inherit everything. My 2 siblings died years ago, leaving me as the sole heir. After the funeral, the estate lawyer, Mr. Harrison, pulled me aside. "Elias, we need to review the will. Your father left specific instructions." We went to his office, and during that hour, I understood the magnitude of the inheritance. 3 cattle ranches totaling 1,500 acres, with high-quality livestock and modern infrastructure, valued at $12 million. The oceanfront house on the Outer Banks, with spectacular architecture, now valued at $2 million. And bank accounts and conservative but substantial investments, totaling another $3 million. $17 million total. Your father was very clear, Mr. Harrison explained. He wanted everything to go to you because, and I quote, Elias is the only one who worked without expecting an inheritance, the only one who built something of his own. He deserves to continue it. I left that office stunned, with documents certifying a fortune I never imagined, and with the desire to share it with Marcus, with my son, so he would know that the family's future was secured. I drove home to my house in Atlanta, where I lived alone since Eleanor passed. But Marcus and Vanessa had a key. They came over occasionally, and I knew they would be there today because after the funeral, I had told them, "Come over tomorrow. There are things we need to discuss." I arrived around 6 o'clock in the evening. Marcus's car was parked outside. Perfect. I opened the front door quietly, wanting to surprise them, to share the incredible news. But then I heard their voices from the living room. They were talking, and the tone wasn't casual. It was intense, conspiratorial. Something stopped me, instinct. The need to know what they were saying when they thought they were alone. I stayed at the entrance, behind the wall that separated the foyer from the living room, listening. "When will he get here?" Vanessa asked. "He said around 6. He should be arriving soon. Do you know how much he inherited?" "Not exactly. But Dad once mentioned that Grandpa had properties worth over $10 million. And that was years ago. Now it's probably much more. Marcus, this is what we've been waiting for. Your father is going to have a fortune, and we need to ensure it ends up where it belongs, with us. Eventually, it will. I'm his only son. Everything will come to me, eventually. And when is that? In 20 years? 30? Your father is 59. He could live until he's 90. And in the meantime, what about us? We keep begging for handouts, living paycheck to paycheck while he sits on a fortune? Vanessa, it's not begging. It's family help. Call it whatever you want, but it's humiliating. Marcus, we're in our 30s. We should be at the peak of our lives. Our own house, trips, financial freedom. But we're trapped by your debts, by your failed law firm, by everything. Thanks for reminding me. I'm not attacking you. I'm being realistic. And the reality is your father inherited a fortune, and we need part of that fortune. Now, not in decades. And how do you suggest we do that? We ask him directly, right? Because he'll say no. He'll say it's for his retirement, that it's for emergencies, that it's for anything but us. We need to be more strategic. Strategic how? We need him to give us control, legal power over his finances, over his properties, under the pretext of helping him manage the inheritance. It's a lot for a man his age. He needs support, legal advice. And you're a lawyer, his son, the perfect person to handle everything. My blood ran cold, because this wasn't a son worried about his father. It was a conspiracy, a calculated plan to take control of my life, my fortune. I don't know if that'll work, Marcus said, doubtful. My dad isn't stupid. He will suspect something. Not if we do it well. If we act concerned, overwhelmed by the responsibility he inherited, offering genuine help. He's vulnerable now. He just lost his father. He's grieving. It's the perfect moment to approach him, to offer support that looks like filial love. And after we have legal power, then what? Then we do what's necessary. We sell the properties he doesn't need. The ranches, for example. What is your father going to do with cattle ranches? Nothing. We sell them, liquidate, and use the money to pay off our debts, to buy a house, to live the way we deserve. Vanessa, that's almost like stealing. It's not stealing if it would eventually be yours anyway. We're just moving up the inevitable. And Marcus, think about it. Your father has more money than he will ever need. 4 drugstores generating millions. Now, an inheritance of another $14 or $15 million probably. Does one man really need all that? A man alone? I guess not. Exactly. So, it's family redistribution. He has too much. We have too little. And you are his son, his blood, his heir. You have a right to it. And if he refuses, if he doesn't give us legal power, then Plan B. What is Plan B? Incompetence. Your father is almost 60. With good medical documentation, with the right testimonies, we could argue that he can no longer handle complex finances, that he needs a legal guardian. And you, as his son and a lawyer, would be the perfect candidate. That's declaring him incompetent, Marcus. That would destroy our relationship. What relationship, Marcus? Let's be honest. Your father sees you twice a month. He gives you money like you're a charity case. There's no real relationship. There's an obligation. And frankly, once we have what we need, does it matter if he's upset? He's my father, and you're his son, who spent years begging for scraps while he piles up wealth. Marcus, the time has come to take what is ours by right, by necessity, and if he won't cooperate voluntarily, we'll do it involuntarily. The silence that followed was heavy, and I waited. I waited for my son to respond. I waited for him to say no, to defend his father, to reject this Plan B. But what he said was worse than silence. Okay, we'll try Plan A first. We offer help. We get legal power, and we see what happens. But Vanessa, if this blows up, if my father finds out, he won't find out, because we will act perfectly, like a loving, concerned son, like a helpful daughter-in-law. And by the time he realizes, if he even does realize, it will be too late. The control will be in our hands. I backed away silently, returning to my car, with the inheritance documents still in my hand, my heart pounding so hard I thought my chest would burst, but not from emotion, from fury. Cold, calculated, lethal fury. I had just heard a conspiracy against me, planned by my own son and his manipulative wife. A plan to rob me, to declare me incompetent if I resisted, to take everything I had built, everything my father had left me. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront them. I wouldn't give them a chance to deny, to lie, to act offended. I would do something better, something more satisfying. I would let them believe their plan was working. I would lure them deeper. And when they were completely committed, when they had fully revealed their true nature, I would systematically, legally, destroy them, leaving them with nothing except the consequences of their betrayal. Because revenge isn't about a quick punch, it's about making the traitor hang themselves with their own rope. And Marcus and Vanessa had just handed me all the rope I needed. I called my best friend, Rob Dixon, a former prosecutor now in private practice who had known me for 30 years. Elias, how are you? How did it go with the lawyer? Rob, I need to see you urgently. Something has happened. Something that changes everything. Are you okay? You sound strange. I'm perfectly fine, but I need your legal expertise and your absolute discretion. My office. 1 hour. I told him everything, word for word, what I had heard, Marcus and Vanessa's plan. I watched the fury grow on Rob's face. Those bastards. Your own son. I know. But Rob, I don't want an emotional confrontation. I want legal, systematic destruction. I want them to pay in a way that hurts permanently. What do you have in mind? Play their game? Let them think it's working? Give them enough rope to hang themselves? And then, when they're completely exposed, cut it. It's risky. They could do real harm before you stop them. Not if I handle them correctly, no. Not if I document everything. And that's where you come in. Explain. I need you to prepare documents, but not the ones they want. I need protection, an irrevocable trust, where I control everything while I live, and where, if something happens to me, if I'm suddenly declared incompetent, everything goes to charity. Nothing for Marcus. Nothing for Vanessa. Zero. That's nuclear warfare. Exactly. Because, Rob, if they're going to conspire against me, if they're going to try to rob me, I need to ensure they don't win under any circumstances. And then I let them act. I give them the opportunity to show exactly who they are. I record them if possible. I document everything. And when I have enough evidence, I confront them legally, publicly, and disinherit them permanently. Elias, this is intense. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Rob, I heard my son planning to rob me, conspiring to declare me incompetent, to take control of my life. And you expect me to just forgive him? To act like nothing happened? No, but revenge has an emotional price. You're going to lose your son permanently. I already lost him. The Marcus I knew, the one I raised and loved, he doesn't exist. In his place is a greedy stranger, manipulated by a calculating wife, and that stranger deserves what's coming. All right, I'll prepare everything. But Elias, be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. I know. That's why I need to act first, quickly, intelligently. That night, I finally returned home 2 hours later than planned. Marcus and Vanessa were waiting, their faces a perfectly executed portrait of worry. Dad, where were you? You had us worried. Sorry, I was with the lawyer longer than expected. A lot to process. We understand. It must be overwhelming. Such a large inheritance. It is, and honestly, I don't know how I'm going to handle everything. I saw a spark in Vanessa's eyes. Opportunity, exactly as they anticipated. Mr. Thornwell, she said, that's what family is for, to help. Marcus is a lawyer. I have administrative experience. We can help you manage everything if you want. Really. You would do that? Of course, Marcus responded. You're my father. It's the least I can do. That's generous, but it's a lot of responsibility. A responsibility we'll share. Dad, 3 ranches, a beach house, investments. It's too much for one person. But together, we can manage it, organize it, and maximize its value. Perfect. Just as they planned, offering help, presenting themselves as a concerned family. I played my part. The vulnerable man, overwhelmed, in need of support. Maybe you're right, I finally said. Then let me think about it. It's a lot to consider. Take your time. Vanessa said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But Dad, don't wait too long. These things need attention, decisions, and the sooner we start, the better for everyone. I understand. I'll let you know soon. After they left, I smiled. A cold smile, because they had taken the bait perfectly. Now, it was only a matter of time. Time to document, to expose, to destroy. Marcus and Vanessa were about to learn a painful lesson. Never conspire against someone who has more experience, more resources, and absolutely nothing left to lose. The following days were pure theater, a calculated performance where every gesture, every word, and every facial expression had a purpose. I was a seasoned actor because I had learned something during 40 years in business. People show their true nature when they think they are winning. Marcus called daily. Dad, how are you? Have you thought about our offer? Yes, son. And I think you're right. I need help. I heard a sigh of relief, barely contained triumph. I'm glad to hear that. When can we start? Give me a few days. I need to organize the documents, understand exactly what I inherited, and then we'll meet formally. Perfect. And Dad, don't worry. We're going to take care of everything. As a family. Family. That word now sounded hollow, corrupted, as if it had lost all meaning. Meanwhile, I worked with Rob, preparing the legal protection, the irrevocable trust that would turn any attempt by Marcus into a legal disaster for him. Here it is, Rob explained, showing me the documents. A bulletproof trust. You maintain total control while you live and retain mental capacity. No one can touch it. And if anyone tries to declare you incompetent, if there is any legal proceeding against you, everything automatically goes to the 3 charitable foundations you specified. And Marcus receives exactly nothing. The will is clear. Due to behavior that violated family trust, he is disinherited. And he can't contest it because it's impeccably drafted. Perfect. And what about the surveillance equipment? Installed yesterday while you were at the drugstores. Hidden cameras in the living room, the dining room, and the study where you plan to meet with them. Professional quality audio. Everything legal. Because it's your property and it records continuously. Excellent. Because, Rob, I need irrefutable evidence. Video, audio, documentation of every step of their conspiracy, so that when I confront them, they can't deny it. They can't lie. They can only face the consequences. You'll have it. But, Elias, are you emotionally prepared to see your son fully reveal himself? To hear things you can't unhear? I already heard the worst. The rest is just confirmation. But I was wrong, because what came next was worse than I imagined. 1 week after the funeral, I organized a meeting at my house with Marcus and Vanessa. The pretext was to review the inheritance together and plan a strategy for managing the properties. They arrived promptly with a professional portfolio, with expressions of family concern and a perfectly rehearsed performance. Thank you for coming, I said, leading them to the study, where the hidden cameras would capture everything. That's what family is for, Marcus responded. Show us what you've got. I laid out the documents, ranch deeds, property titles, bank statements, all meticulously organized. I saw Vanessa's eyes gleam like a predator, seeing its prey. This is substantial, she said, trying to sound neutral. Mr. Thornwell, do you have any idea of the total value? Approximately $17 million, according to the appraisals. My God, Marcus muttered. Dad, that's a fortune. It is, and honestly, it overwhelms me. I don't know where to start. Start with organization, Vanessa suggested. You need a legal structure, a holding company, perhaps, where the properties are consolidated. And someone trustworthy manages the daily operations. Someone like you two? Well, Marcus is a lawyer. I have administrative experience, and we're family. Who else would you trust with something like this? You have a point. But how would it work, exactly? Marcus pulled out documents from his portfolio, prepared in advance. I brought a proposal for a broad power of attorney where you authorize me to act on your behalf for transactions, operational decisions, everything related to the inheritance. You maintain ownership, obviously, but I handle the administration. This is normal, legal, completely standard. Many families do it, especially when the wealth is complex. It's protection for you. It reduces stress and ensures everything is handled professionally. I took the documents, pretending to review them carefully. It was an extremely broad power of attorney that practically turned me into a spectator of my own finances. Marcus could sell, buy, and transfer everything without my explicit approval. This is a lot of power. It's the power I need to do the job correctly, Marcus explained. If I have to consult you on every small decision, the process will be slow and inefficient. It's better if you trust me. I'll handle the details and keep you informed of the big decisions. Big decisions like what? Like selling a ranch if an opportunity arises, or refinancing properties for better liquidity. Things that require quick action, where waiting for your approval could cost money. There it was, the plan revealing itself. Obtain legal power, then sell properties for better liquidity, which really meant to pay off their debts, to finance their lifestyle, to legally steal. Let me think about it, I said. It's a big decision. Dad, the longer you wait, the more complicated everything gets. Inheritance taxes, property maintenance, operational decisions on the ranches. They need attention now, not in weeks. Marcus is right, Vanessa added. And Mr. Thornwell, I understand it's difficult to delegate, but think of it this way. You built an empire with your drugstores, right? Because you delegated. Because you trusted competent people. This is the same, only now you're delegating to your son. Your own blood. Perfect manipulation. Appealing to my business ego, to family connection, to apparent logic. But I saw right through it. I saw exactly what it was, a trap. All right, I finally said, but with conditions. What conditions? First, I want a complete monthly audit of all activity. Transactions, decisions, everything documented. Of course, that's just good practice. Second, major property sales require my explicit, written, notarized approval. I saw tension on Marcus's face. Dad, that complicates things. It's my condition, non-negotiable. Okay, we can work with that. Third, this power of attorney is revocable. At any time, if I feel things aren't being managed correctly, I'll cancel it immediately. Understood? Anything else? Yes. I want my accountant, Alan, to review these documents before I sign anything, to ensure they protect my interests. Dad, I'm a lawyer. These documents are standard. Alan reviews them, or there's no deal. Vanessa intervened with a forced smile. Mr. Thornwell, of course, we want you to feel completely comfortable. Have your accountant review everything. We'll take the necessary time. But I saw annoyance in her eyes, because every condition complicated their plan. Every protection I requested was an obstacle to the theft they were planning. After they left, Rob and I reviewed the recordings. We've got them, he said, smiling, clearly offering to take control under false pretense. And look here. When you mention major property sales, Marcus almost blurts something out. Something about needing the freedom to act quickly. Because their plan is to sell before you can stop them. Exactly. Elias, with this and what you originally heard, you have a solid case for disinheritance, for exposure, for everything. Not yet. I need more. I need them to show criminal intent, not just greed, but a specific plan to defraud. How do you provoke that? By giving them an opportunity, by letting them believe they've won, and seeing how far they'll go. Over the next few days, I played the part of the trusting father. I called Marcus. Son, Alan reviewed the documents. He says they're well structured. We can proceed. Seriously, Dad, that's excellent news, but I want to make one change. Instead of an immediate power of attorney, let's start with a 3-month trial period where you manage the operations but under close supervision. And then, if everything goes well, we'll expand your authority. Silence. A trial period, Dad? That suggests you don't trust us. It's reasonable caution, Marcus. We're talking about $17 million. I need to be sure. I understand. All right, 3 months. We'll prove we're trustworthy. But that night, I installed a listening device in Marcus's car. It was legal, because technically, it was my car. I had loaned it to him 2 years ago when his broke down, and he never gave it back. So, legally, I could monitor my own property. And what I heard that night, while they were driving back to their house, confirmed everything. A trial period. Can you believe it? Vanessa shouted. As if we were untrustworthy employees. Calm down. At least we got something. We can work with 3 months. Work, Marcus? In 3 months, we won't be able to do anything significant. Not with his constant supervision. We need real control, the freedom to act. And what do you suggest? He already rejected the full power of attorney. Then we go to Plan B, the one we discussed. Incompetence. Vanessa, that's extreme. Extreme? You know what's extreme? Living with debt while your father sits on $250 million in assets. That's extreme. And Marcus, either you take control, or I'll find someone who has the guts. Are you threatening me? I'm being clear. I need a husband who provides, who secures our future, not a weak man who begs his father. So decide, do we do what's necessary, or do we keep being poor while he plays the magnate? All right, I'll research the process. Incompetence, guardianship, everything. But Vanessa, if we do this, there's no turning back. My father will never forgive us. And what does that matter? Once we have legal control, once the properties are sold, once the money is in our accounts, what can he do? Nothing. He'll be legally neutralized, and we'll finally live the way we deserve. I turned off the recording with a fury so intense my hands were shaking. Because now it wasn't just greed. It was a criminal plan. Explicit. Documented. To fraudulently declare me incompetent. To steal not just the inheritance, but my autonomy, my dignity, my life. I called Rob, even though it was midnight. Elias, what happened? I have a recording of Vanessa and Marcus discussing Plan B. A fraudulent declaration of incompetence. I heard everything. Send it to me now. I sent him the file. I waited while he listened, and after 5 minutes, he called back. This is gold. Clear conspiracy, attempted fraud. And with your previous recording, with the video from the meeting, you have a devastating case. What do I do now? 2 options. 1, you go to the police, file charges. This is attempted fraud, conspiracy, a real crime. Or 2, you wait, let them take one more step, and catch them in the act. Which do you recommend? It depends. Do you want legal justice or personal justice? Personal. I want them to feel exactly what they plan to make me feel. Helplessness, humiliation, total loss. Then we wait. But, Elias, it's risky. What if they act fast? What if they file the papers before you can stop them? They won't, because I'm going to control the timing. I'm going to make them think they have a window, the perfect opportunity. And when they take it, I'll crush them. Over the next week, I played the part of a deteriorating man. I called Marcus with vague complaints. Son, I feel strange, confused. I forgot the meeting with my accountant yesterday. Seriously, Dad? Have you seen a doctor? I haven't had time. With all the inheritance stuff. Dad, you need to take care of yourself. Do you want me to go with you to the doctor? Maybe. Let me see how I feel. I planted the seeds, small pieces of evidence of deterioration, and I watched as Marcus and Vanessa watered them as they began to document, to mention them to others, building their false case. Vanessa called my secretary at the drugstores. Have you noticed anything strange with Mr. Thornwell? Unusual decisions, forgetfulness? My secretary, who knew exactly what was happening because I had explained it to her, played her part. Now that you mention it, yes, he's been forgetful, repeating questions. It's worrying. Perfect. They were building a false narrative, collecting evidence of my incompetence, and every step was sinking them deeper. After 2 weeks, Marcus finally acted. He came to my house with a doctor and with papers. Dad, we need to talk. We're worried about you, your mental health. We brought Dr. Owens for an evaluation. Dr. Owens, who had clearly been paid, bribed, to diagnose what Marcus needed. An evaluation? I don't need an evaluation. I'm fine. Dad, you've been forgetful and confused. And with such a large estate, we need to ensure you can manage it. It's for your protection. I don't need protection. I need you to leave me alone. Mr. Thornwell, the doctor intervened, with a false professional voice. It's just a few questions, a simple cognitive exam. If you're fine, as you say, there's no problem. But if there's something, we can treat it early. I saw the game, an exam designed to fail, with trick questions, with biased interpretation, all to create documentation of incompetence. All right, I said, but I want a second opinion. After your evaluation, my own doctor will review me. Dad, that's not necessary. It's my condition or nothing. They accepted because they thought they could manipulate the result anyway. I proceeded with the exam, answering some questions correctly, others confusedly, giving them exactly enough to build their false case. Mr. Thornwell, the doctor said afterward, I see some concerning signs. Nothing definitive, but I suggest follow-up, and perhaps considering designating someone to help with complex financial decisions, like a guardian. Not necessarily a legal guardian, but support, supervision. Your son, for example. There it was, the bought recommendation, designed to justify what came next. I'll think about it. After they left, I called Rob. I've got them completely. They tried to use a fake doctor to create evidence of incompetence. Everything recorded. Everything documented. That's enough, Elias. We can act now. We have conspiracy, attempted fraud, bribery of a medical professional. Everything. When do we make a move? It depends. Do you want a private confrontation or a public one? Public. I want everyone to know. Family, friends, the business community. I want Marcus and Vanessa to face not only the legal consequences, but the social ones. I want to destroy their reputation, just as they planned to destroy my autonomy. Then we organize a conference with the lawyer, with witnesses, with the press, if you want, and we reveal everything with evidence, with recordings, with complete documentation. Perfect. But before that, one more thing. I want to confront them face to face, give them a chance to confess, to demonstrate if there's any humanity left. And when they fail, when they deny, when they lie, that's when I reveal everything. When? Tomorrow at my house. I'll tell them I'm finally going to sign the papers, give them legal power. And when they arrive, believing they've won, I'll show them exactly who the fool in this story really is. The next morning dawned clear. A perfect blue sky, as if the universe itself was setting the stage for what was to come. I called Marcus early. Son, I've made a decision about the power of attorney. I want you and Vanessa to come over today at 6 o'clock in the evening. We'll sign the papers. I heard his breathing quicken, his excitement barely contained. Seriously, Dad? Thank you. You won't regret this. I hope not. Bring the documents and a witness if you need one. I want to make it official. I'll bring them. Dad, this is the right thing for everyone. I hung up and smiled. A smile devoid of humor. Because Marcus thought he had won. That he would finally have access to the fortune. But what he was really going to receive was something completely different. I spent the day preparing. Rob arrived at 3 o'clock with his legal team, 2 more lawyers, a notary, and a technician to ensure the recordings were working perfectly. Are you ready? Rob asked. I've never been readier. Are all the documents in order? All of them. The irrevocable trust was signed and registered this morning. The will has been updated. Marcus's complete disinheritance, with detailed legal justification. Everything is bulletproof against any contestation. And the recordings? We have everything. The original conversation you heard, the meeting in your study, the audio from the car, the attempt with the fake doctor. Everything is time-stamped, authenticated, and legally admissible. Perfect. And after the confrontation, I have a police officer waiting outside with a prepared arrest warrant for Marcus and Vanessa, and for Dr. Owens, for conspiracy to commit fraud, for attempted theft by deception, and for bribing a medical professional. A police officer. Rob, you didn't mention that. Because I knew you would object, that you would say you only wanted personal justice. But Elias, this crossed the line. It's a real crime, and it deserves real criminal consequences, not just disinheritance. I thought about it, seeing my son arrested, handcuffed, taken away in a patrol car, and part of me wanted to avoid it, because he was my son, my blood. But another part, the part that had listened to the Plan B conspiracy, the part that had seen the total lack of remorse, that part knew Rob was right. All right, but the arrest comes after the confrontation, after giving them a chance to confess. If they do, if they show genuine remorse, maybe I'll drop the charges. But if they deny, if they lie, if they act like victims, then let them face everything. Precisely at 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Marcus and Vanessa, punctual, anxious, with the professional portfolio and smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Dad, Marcus greeted me, hugging me, a hug that now felt false, contaminated. Thank you for this, for trusting us. Come in. I have people waiting in the study. I saw confusion cross their faces when they entered, and saw Rob, his team, the notary, and the formal setup they hadn't expected. Dad, what is this? You said we were going to sign papers. Sit down, I ordered, with a tone that left no room for argument. We have a lot to discuss. Marcus and Vanessa sat down, exchanging nervous glances, sensing that something was wrong, but still not understanding. Before we sign anything, I need to ask you some questions, and I want honest answers, I began. Can you do that? Be honest with me? Of course, Dad. We are always honest. Good. Then tell me, why do you want power of attorney over my finances? We already told you. To help you. To manage the complexity of the inheritance. And it has nothing to do with your debts? With your desperate financial situation? Well, everyone has financial problems, but that's separate. Separate? Marcus, you've asked me for money 17 times in 3 years, more than $120,000 total, that you've never paid back. And you expect me to believe that your interest in my finances is suddenly altruistic? Dad, those were emergencies, and I'll pay you back eventually. Eventually? Or when you inherit, when it no longer matters, because everything will be yours anyway. I don't know what you're implying. I'm implying that you and Vanessa have been conspiring, planning, and calculating how to take control of my fortune. And not just through patient inheritance, but through deception, through a fraudulent declaration of incompetence, essentially through theft. That's ridiculous, Vanessa protested. Who is putting these ideas into your head? Your lawyer? They're trying to separate us. No one needs to separate us. You did that yourselves. With your words, with your actions, with your complete conspiracy that I documented meticulously. Documented, Dad? What are you talking about? I'm talking about this, and I signaled to Rob, who played the recording, the first one, the one I heard the night of the funeral. Vanessa and Marcus discussing it in my living room. Planning, calculating, with every treacherous word perfectly preserved. I saw the color drain from their faces, panic growing. Marcus tried to recover. Dad, that was a private conversation. Taken out of context. Context? What context justifies saying I'm an obstacle? That you're investing in the relationship to secure the inheritance? That you have a plan B to declare me incompetent if I don't cooperate? We were frustrated. We were talking without thinking. It's not what we really feel. No? Then explain this second recording from your car, explicitly discussing Plan B. Vanessa threatening Marcus, saying she needed a husband with guts, planning how to legally neutralize me. Vanessa stood up. This is illegal. Recording us without permission. You can't use this. It is completely legal. Rob intervened. The conversation occurred on my client's property. A car that belongs to my client. And Georgia law permits the recording of conversations where at least one party is aware. Elias consented because it's his property. So yes, we can use it in court, in a lawsuit, and in a criminal complaint. Criminal complaint? Marcus whispered. Dad, you can't. Can't what? Defend myself? Protect myself from a criminal conspiracy? Marcus, you planned to defraud me using a bought doctor to create false evidence of incompetence. That's not a family disagreement. It's a crime. Dad, please let me explain. Explain then. Explain why I should forgive this betrayal. Why I should ignore that my own son conspired to rob me, to neutralize me, to treat me as an obstacle to a fortune he didn't earn? Explain. Marcus was crying now, but I wasn't sure if it was genuine remorse or panic over the consequences. It was Vanessa. She pressured me. She planned everything. Coward, Vanessa screamed. Now you blame me when you were just as anxious, just as greedy. Shut up. You're just making it worse. Worse? We're already ruined. Your father has everything recorded. He's going to disinherit us. He's probably going to sue us. What else can get worse? This, I said, placing documents on the table. You can read. These are copies. The originals are already registered with the attorney. Marcus took the papers, reading. With every line, his face grew paler. This is an irrevocable trust. Everything goes to charity. I don't receive anything. Nothing. Correct. Due to conspiracy to defraud. Due to betrayal of family trust. Due to behavior that violates every principle I tried to teach you, you deserve nothing, and you will receive nothing. Dad, you can't do this. I'm your son. Your only son. A son who conspired against his father, who saw his father as an obstacle, as an eventual bank account. That's not a son. That's a stranger with a common surname. Please, we can fix this. We can go to family therapy. We can rebuild trust. Trust Marcus? I recorded 6 conversations where you conspired against me. I documented a meeting where you tried to manipulate me. I have evidence of bribery to a medical professional. And you talk about rebuilding trust? That's not a broken window. It's a demolished building. There is no reconstruction possible. Vanessa intervened with a calculating voice that showed no remorse. Mr. Thornwell, I understand you're upset, but think about it practically. Marcus is your only son. Eventually, someone will inherit. Do you really want it to be strangers? Impersonal charities? Instead of your own blood? I prefer charity over a traitor. And Vanessa, speaking of practical, there's something else you should know. I gave another signal to Rob, who called in the officer waiting outside. He entered in uniform, with handcuffs, with an authority that could not be denied. Marcus Thornwell, Vanessa Thornwell, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. No, Marcus shouted. Dad, please don't do this. I'm your son. You are a criminal, and criminals face justice. Officer, proceed. I watched the handcuffs go on. I saw total panic on their faces. I saw the final reality sinking in. That they had lost not only the inheritance, but their freedom, their future, everything. Dad, I beg you, Marcus sobbed as the officer led him away. Don't let this happen. You're my father. Protect you from the consequences of your actions, just like I did all your life. Look where that led us, didn't it? Now face reality without my protection, without my money, without my intervention. Just you and the consequences you earned. The officer took them away. I remained in the study with Rob and his team, with the heavy silence that followed the storm. Are you okay? Rob asked. No. But I am right, and sometimes that has to be enough. Elias, the combined bail was $40,000. They'll probably be out tomorrow. I know, but the process is underway. The charges are serious: conspiracy, fraud, bribery. Even with good lawyers, they face years of legal battle. And during that time, every day, they will remember that they played a dangerous game and lost. And what will you do now? Live without the burden of a traitorous son, without the worry of conspiracy, with the peace that comes from knowing my resources are going to legitimate causes, not to parasites, disguised as family. Over the next few days, the story spread through business circles in the community, and the reactions were mixed. Some supported me. You did the right thing. Family doesn't excuse crime. Others criticized. He's your son. You should forgive, seek reconciliation. But more interesting were the calls I received from other fathers, other businessmen, sharing similar stories of greedy children, of family who saw wealth as a right, of small and large betrayals. Elias, I admire your courage, a colleague told me. I've suspected my daughter for years, but I haven't had the guts to confront her, to verify it. And now I live in constant doubt. Verifying hurts, I admitted. But living in doubt is worse. At least now I know, and I can act with certainty. 1 week after the arrests, Marcus called from an unknown number, because they had obviously blocked his. Dad, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about, except through lawyers. Please, give me 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Something in his voice made me agree. All right, 5 minutes. Dad, you were right. About everything. I was greedy. I was a traitor. I was a terrible son, and I am truly sorry. I am sorry. Are you sorry you conspired, or are you sorry you were caught? Both, honestly. But Dad, these days, in the legal process, have opened my eyes to who I became, to how Vanessa manipulated me, to how I lost my way. Vanessa didn't put words in your mouth. She didn't force you to conspire. You chose actively, consciously. You're right. And I'm not looking for excuses. I just wanted you to know that I regret it, and that I understand if you never forgive me. I deserve it, Dad. I genuinely appreciate the apology, but it changes nothing. The trust is irrevocable. The disinheritance is permanent, and the criminal charges continue. I know, and I'm not calling to ask you to change that. I'm just calling to say I am sorry, and that I love you. Despite everything I did, I love you, and I regret failing you. He hung up before I could respond, and I was left with the phone, with tears I hadn't expected. Because despite everything, despite the betrayal, the conspiracy, and the pain, a part of me still loved my son. The part that remembered the innocent child, before the greed, before Vanessa, before everything. But love doesn't mean automatic forgiveness. It doesn't mean restoring trust that was destroyed so completely. Sometimes, love means letting go, letting them face the consequences, letting them grow in a way they never would with parental rescue. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from Marcus's lawyer offering a settlement. Marcus and Vanessa would withdraw any claim on the inheritance. They would accept the disinheritance in exchange for me dropping the criminal charges. What do you think? I asked Rob. It's tempting. It ends everything cleanly, without an extended legal battle, without continuous publicity. But it sends the message that crime without real consequences is acceptable. That, as long as you apologize and renounce your claim, you can attempt to defraud without serious punishment. Exactly. So no. Let them face the charges. Let them go to trial, if necessary. Let the system determine if they are guilty or not. I am not going to interfere with justice. Elias, Marcus is your son. Do you really want to see him potentially in prison? I want to see him face the consequences. If that means prison, then yes. Because it's the only way he'll learn. The only way he'll truly change. And if he doesn't change, if he only grows bitter, then that will be his choice. Just as conspiring was his choice. Just as betraying me was his choice. I can no longer control his choices. I can only control mine. And I choose justice over sentimentality, consequences over rescue. The trial was scheduled for 6 months later. Enough time for both sides to prepare, for evidence to be reviewed, and for testimonies to be organized. During that time, I continued my life. I managed the drugstores. I administered the inherited ranches through competent managers. I sold the house on the Outer Banks for a substantial profit and donated it to a foundation for veterans in my father's name. And slowly, I found peace. Not complete peace, because there would always be a scar where Marcus had been, but the peace of knowing that I had acted correctly, that I had protected my dignity, my autonomy, my life. One day, 3 months after the arrests, I ran into Vanessa at a coffee shop. She was alone, looking defeated, nothing like the confident woman who had conspired against me. "Mr. Thornwell," she said when she saw me, without hostility, only tiredness. "Vanessa, may I speak for a minute?" "Go ahead." "I want you to know something. Marcus and I are separating, divorcing. I can't be with someone who blames me for his own decisions, who acts like a victim when he was a willing participant. I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. Because even though you betrayed my family, even though you conspired, I don't wish for you to suffer unnecessarily. Only for you to face the consequences. I am facing them. I lost a husband. I lost my reputation. I lost my job because no one wants to hire a woman arrested for conspiracy, and I'll probably face more at trial. And Marcus? Marcus is broken, living with a friend, working in a bar because no one will give him legal work, waiting for a trial that will probably destroy him completely. And Mr. Thornwell, I know you have every right to be furious, every right to punish us. But I ask you, when is enough enough? When does the punishment end? The punishment ends when you learn the lesson, when you demonstrate genuine change, not just words, but real transformation. And how do you demonstrate that? From the bottom of the hole, where we are, that is the question you two have to answer. I can't rescue you again. I can't give you shortcuts. If you want redemption, you have to earn it, with time, with actions, with sustained proof that you are different. But in the meantime, you keep falling until you hit rock bottom and decide to climb out by yourselves, without my safety net, without the expectation of a paternal rescue. Just you and your determination. Vanessa nodded with tears in her eyes. It's fair. Cruel, but fair. And Mr. Thornwell, for what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything. And she left. I stayed with my coffee, thinking about the conversation, about the questions of when punishment ends, and I realized I didn't know the answer. I wasn't punishing them to achieve a specific result. I was punishing them because it was a natural, inevitable consequence of the choices they made. And perhaps that was the biggest lesson. That actions have consequences. And that a father who constantly rescues his son isn't being kind. He's being cruel, depriving his son of the opportunity to grow, to learn, to become a functional adult who understands reality. The trial arrived 6 months later in a courtroom in Atlanta, Georgia, with a judge who had seen enough cases of family fraud to be skeptical but fair. Marcus and Vanessa had competent lawyers, paid with loans because they no longer had any resources. And my legal team, led by Rob, had overwhelming evidence. The first day was devastating for them. The prosecutor presented the recordings one by one, with clear audio and complete context. Every word they had said conspiratorially was played in the public courtroom for the judge, for the audience, and for the reporters documenting the case. Your father is going to have a fortune, and we need to ensure it ends up where it belongs, with us. We can't wait decades. We need part of that fortune now. If he won't cooperate voluntarily, we'll do it involuntarily. I saw the faces of Marcus and Vanessa. Shame, horror, the realization that their private words were now a permanent, public, indelible record. Then came the evidence from Dr. Owens, who, under the threat of losing his medical license, confessed everything. That Marcus had contacted him, offered $2,000 to diagnose cognitive impairment, to create false documentation that would justify involuntary guardianship. "And you accepted this bribe?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," the doctor admitted, his voice cracking. "I needed the money. I have debts." And Marcus assured me it was for his father's good, that he really was deteriorating, that he just needed official documentation. Did you genuinely examine Mr. Thornwell? Did you find any real evidence of deterioration? No. The exam was theater, designed to create a predetermined result. Not science, not ethics, just corruption. During the doctor's testimony, I saw Marcus sink into his chair, because it wasn't just his conspiracy being exposed. It was his active participation in professional corruption, in medical fraud, at levels of criminality that could not be minimized as a family mistake. When I was called to testify, I told the complete story, from the funeral, to the discovery of the conspiracy, to the methodical documentation of every step. And during my testimony, I looked at Marcus, searching for a sign of remorse, of genuine understanding of the harm he had caused. What I saw was a broken man, not faking it, but genuinely destroyed by the exposure, by the consequences, by the realization of everything he had lost. Marcus's lawyer tried a cross-examination. "Mr. Thornwell, isn't it true that you deliberately recorded my client's private conversations? That you set a trap to expose him?" "I recorded conversations on my property after hearing a conspiracy. That is legal. And yes, I gave them the opportunity to reveal their true nature, because I needed to know if what I heard was a momentary mistake or a sustained plan. It turned out to be the latter. But you acted as if you were deteriorating. You lied about your mental condition to provoke action from my client. I acted vulnerable to see if Marcus would protect me or exploit me. He chose exploitation. That's not a trap. It's a revelation of character. Do you have no remorse for destroying your only son's life?" "I have remorse that my son chose this path, but not for defending myself, for protecting myself, for ensuring that crime was not rewarded." The testimony continued for 2 days with additional witnesses, with recording experts verifying authenticity, with financial analysts showing how the plan would have resulted in a substantial loss for me, with everything pointing to a clear, premeditated criminal conspiracy. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. Marcus asked to speak without his lawyer directly to the judge. "Your Honor, I want to change my plea from not guilty to guilty for all charges." His lawyer protested. "Mr. Thornwell, I do not advise this. We still have a defense." "I don't have a defense. I did everything the prosecution alleges. I conspired. I planned fraud. I bribed a doctor. It's all true, and I don't want it to prolong this. I don't want my father to have to sit here day after day reliving my betrayal. I just want to accept the consequences and start paying for what I did." The judge studied Marcus. "Mr. Thornwell, do you understand that a guilty plea means an almost certain sentence? Prison, most likely." "I understand, and I accept it. Because, Your Honor, I am not the victim here. I am the perpetrator, and my father, the man who raised me, who loved me, who gave me everything, he is the victim. And he deserves justice, not a prolongation of his pain." Vanessa made a different decision. She maintained her not guilty plea, arguing that she was influenced by Marcus, that he led the conspiracy, and that she was a passive participant, manipulated by her dominant husband. But the evidence did not support that narrative. The recordings showed Vanessa leading, pressuring, and threatening. She was not a victim. She was the principal architect. The judge deliberated for 1 week, and when we returned for the sentencing, the room was full, with the press, with onlookers, with people who had followed the case, a case that had become a symbol of family greed, of betrayal among blood, of justice against corruption. "I have reviewed all the evidence," the judge began. "The testimonies, the recordings, the affirmations, and the conclusion is clear. Marcus Thornwell and Vanessa Thornwell conspired to defraud Mr. Elias Thornwell. It was not a mistake. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a calculated plan, executed over months with multiple criminal steps. Mr. Thornwell, your guilty plea is admirable. It shows a remorse I did not see in the original evidence. For that, and for the fact that you are a first-time offender, the sentence will be moderate. 3 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 18 months, provided you demonstrate genuine rehabilitation." Marcus accepted the sentence without reaction, without protests, only a nod of understanding. "And Ms. Thornwell, you chose to maintain your innocence despite overwhelming evidence, despite the testimony of your accomplice, despite the recordings that clearly show your leadership role. For that, and for your lack of remorse, the sentence will be more severe. 5 years in prison, without the possibility of parole before 3 years." "This is unfair," Vanessa shouted. "I wasn't the only one. Marcus manipulated me." "Ma'am, the recordings say otherwise. They clearly show you pressured, planned, and led, and your failure to accept responsibility only confirms that you represent a continuing danger. Officers, proceed." They were led away, handcuffed. Marcus looked at me one last time with tears, with an expression that combined repentance and acceptance. And Vanessa was screaming protests, proclaiming injustice, acting the victim until the end. After the sentencing, reporters surrounded me. "Mr. Thornwell, how do you feel knowing your son will go to prison?" "I feel sad, but also relieved. Justice was served, and perhaps, just perhaps, these years will give him time to reflect, to grow, to become a different man." "Will you visit him in prison?" "I don't know. I will make that decision in time. But for now, I need space. I need to heal from this betrayal, and he needs to face the consequences without my intervention." "Will you ever forgive him?" "Forgiveness is a process, not an event, and it requires genuine repentance and sustained change. Marcus showed the beginning of that today, with his guilty plea, with his acceptance. But complete forgiveness, restoration of the relationship, that will take years, if it ever happens. Over the following months, life continued. I managed the businesses, administered the inherited properties, and donated generously to causes that mattered. I started a foundation for victims of family fraud, which helped others who had suffered similar betrayals, providing legal resources, emotional support, and a community of understanding. I found purpose in that, in converting my pain into help for others, in ensuring that my experience was not a waste, but a lesson, a guide, a hope for others navigating similar betrayals. 3 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from Marcus from prison. "Dad, I don't expect a response. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know what I'm learning. The rehabilitation program here has opened my eyes to an addiction, not to drugs, but to money, to external validation, to a life I didn't earn. And I've been working with a therapist, processing the greed, processing how I betrayed the values you taught me And Dad, it hurts to clearly see what I did, who I became. But it's also liberating, because for the first time in years, I'm not chasing something external. I'm building something internal. Character, integrity, real values. And even though I know it doesn't change what I did, even though I know the wounds are permanent, I wanted you to know that I haven't wasted this consequence. I'm using it to grow, to be better. Not necessarily for you, but for me. To be a man who can respect himself. Finally, your son, Marcus. I folded the letter with tears because this was what I had hoped for. Signs of genuine growth, not manipulation to reduce the sentence, not a performance for quick restoration, but real, painful, necessary internal work. I didn't respond immediately, because true forgiveness is not rushed. It is earned with time, with consistency, with a sustained demonstration of change. One letter was a beginning, but only a beginning. 6 months later, I received another letter, then another, each one showing more depth, more understanding, more growth. And slowly, very slowly, I felt something. Not complete forgiveness, but an opening, a possibility, a hope that perhaps eventually there could be a relationship again, different from the previous one, built on honesty, on earned respect, and not on blood obligations. And 1 year after the sentencing, I decided to visit him in prison. I hadn't announced it. I simply showed up. And when Marcus entered the visiting room, I saw a different man, not physically, but in his eyes, in his posture, in a presence that radiated something I hadn't seen before, genuine humility. "Dad," he said, sitting down, "I didn't expect this, and neither did I. But your letters made me think that perhaps it was time." "Time for what?" "To see if the change you describe is real, or if it's a sophisticated performance." "It's real, the most real I've been in years. And Dad, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to change the will. I'm not asking for anything. I just appreciate that you came, that you gave me the chance to show you who I'm trying to be." We talked for the permitted hour about his therapy, about support groups, about the jobs he was doing in prison, teaching other prisoners to read, working in the library, contributing in small but significant ways. And I saw something genuine, not perfect, but genuine, a real effort to be better. And that's all I can ask, Marcus. I can't promise full restoration. I can't promise the inheritance. But I can promise this. If you continue to grow, if you consistently demonstrate this change, I will keep the door open to a relationship, to a connection, to the possibility of a future together. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. I left the prison feeling something I hadn't felt in a year. Hope. Not guaranteed, but possible. And sometimes, possibility is enough. Vanessa showed no growth. Her letters, the few she sent, were full of excuses. Blaming Marcus, blaming me, blaming the system, blaming everyone but herself. I eventually stopped reading them because there was no point, no growth, only perpetual bitterness. 18 months after the sentencing, Marcus was released on parole with strict requirements, regular reporting, verifiable work, and exemplary behavior. He fulfilled everything, no complaints, no shortcuts. He got a job at a small law firm, not litigating, but doing research. Humble work for a lawyer with his education. But he accepted it with gratitude, without the arrogance he had shown before. Slowly, we rebuilt the relationship, Not as it was, but something new, based on honesty, on mutual respect, on the understanding that destroyed trust is rebuilt with time, not with declarations, but with sustained actions. 2 years after his release, he visited me at my house for the first time since the arrests. "Dad, there's something I want to tell you." "Go ahead." "I've been working and saving, and I paid off the $120,000 I owed you, with interest. It took 2 years, but it's complete. Here's the transfer." I looked at the documents verifying it. It was real. He had paid off completely something I never thought he would do. "Marcus, I didn't expect this." "I know, but I needed to do it. Not because I expected anything in return, but because it was the right thing to do. It was a debt I owed, and the man I want to be pays his debts. No excuses. I'm genuinely proud of you, proud enough to consider restoration, not of the full inheritance, but maybe something, a recognition that you've changed, that you're not who you were." I considered it carefully, with the full weight of the history between us, and I made a decision. Yes, I will modify the will. Not full restoration, but 20%. With the condition that you continue to demonstrate this change for 5 more years. If you do that, if you maintain the growth, it increases to 40, and eventually, perhaps, a more equitable division. "Dad, that's more than I dreamed of." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You did the work. You changed. I'm only recognizing that. And Marcus, this isn't about money. It's about the relationship. It's about having a son I respect, whom I love, who can look me in the eye without shame." "I know. And Dad, even if you never modified the will, even if you decided to give everything to charity, it would be okay, because what I got back is worth more than any inheritance. I got back my integrity, my self-respect, and your respect. That is priceless." Years later, looking back, I don't regret how I handled the situation. It was brutal and painful and publicly humiliating, but it was also necessary. Without real consequences, Marcus never would have changed. He would have continued in a spiral of greed, dependency, and corrupted character. The revenge I sought wasn't traditional revenge. It wasn't pain for pleasure. It was justice. Natural consequences applied without false mercy. It was the refusal to be a silent victim, to allow the conspiracy to proceed without resistance. And the final result, after years of pain and growth, was something better than what I had before. A son who had truly matured, who had learned the value of honest work, of integrity, of earned respect instead of inherited. If you are hearing this story, if it resonates with you in any way, I want you to understand something fundamental. Family does not excuse betrayal. Blood does not justify crime. And true love sometimes means tough consequences, not easy rescue. I returned from my father's funeral to share the inheritance with my son. But instead of gratitude, I found a conspiracy, a calculated plan to rob me, to neutralize me, to treat me as an obstacle to a fortune he didn't earn. And I had a choice. Act as the ignorant victim, allow the plan to proceed while pretending not to know, or act with intelligence, with strategy, documenting every step, building an irrefutable case. And then when the evidence was complete, totally destroying the conspiracy. I chose the latter. And while it was painful, while it meant seeing my son arrested and incarcerated, It was also right, because Marcus needed those consequences. He needed to hit rock bottom. He needed to lose everything to understand the real value, not of money, but of character. From Atlanta, Georgia, at 64 years old, with a rebuilt relationship with my son, I wish you wisdom. The wisdom to see betrayal when it occurs, not to ignore it in the name of family love, and to protect yourself without apology. And I wish you courage. The courage to apply consequences when they are necessary, to allow the people you love to face the pain they need to face in order to grow. Because constant rescue is not kindness. It is cruelty in disguise. Marcus conspired against me, and he paid the price. 3 years of his life, loss of reputation, destruction of his initial career, public humiliation. But he also gained something. He gained the opportunity to become a real man, with real integrity, with self-respect that cannot be inherited, only earned. And I gained something too. I gained certainty. I gained the knowledge that my son, after a painful journey, is now someone I can respect, someone who can look me in the eye without shame, someone who understands that family is built on actions, not on expectations of inheritance. The inheritance my father left me was substantial, $17 million. But the inheritance I left Marcus was more valuable. A lesson about consequences, about integrity, about the fact that money without character is a curse, not a blessing. And that lesson, that painful transformation from a greedy son to a man of integrity, is worth more than any ranch, any property, any amount of dollars. Because in the end, the only thing we truly inherit, the only thing we truly leave, is character. And Marcus finally inherited the one that matters. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.